Boyd, and I'm here today to introduce you to testing for adult education. This video is going to look at the various types of tests that we offer in adult education. We're going to be interviewing the assessment and technology facilitator, as well as looking at the 3 different types of tests that we provide at Stewart Community Adult Learning Center, Indiantown Adult Learning Center, and Hobe Sound Family Learning Center. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Well, thank you for that introduction, Michael. Today, of course, we're looking at TABE. My name is Michael Boyd, and TABE is 2 versions, versions 11 and version 12. And then there's reading, part 1 and 2, math, part 1 and 2, language, and then there's a locator test. Altogether, it takes about 8 hours to take the entire TABE. And depending on where you are academically, you'll either take the E for easy, M for medium, D for difficult, and A for advanced. All testing occurs from 9 a.m. to noon on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at Stewart Community Adult High School. The TABE itself is administered normally in the testing room. The testing room is a computer lab located just across the hall from the main computer lab, and it is near Josh Burgess's office. Our next picture is a video picture showing the computer lab itself. As you can see, there are 30 stations. So we're more than capable of testing as many people as possible. So we'll hope that you won't feel like you're putting us out by coming to test. Remember, testing is important because testing allows us to determine where you are and how well you're doing in class so that we can give you the right kind of feedback to make you successful. TABE testing is not pass or fail. TABE testing is about doing the best you can so we can see where you are. All right, Michael. So that tells us a little bit about the TABE. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about CASAS test and who takes the CASAS test? CASAS is designed for students who are not fluent in English language yet. They have some degree of knowledge, but not very fluent. So the CASAS test actually gives 2 tests. It gives a reading and listening test. And they take both tests and determine their placement based on those 2 tests. CASAS does things such as social skills and job skills. It's not really so much an academic test as a life works test. Based on their score and their placement, then they're placed into the ELL program, and the teacher has an idea of how they're progressing, number 1, and also where to place them to begin with. Well, hi. Welcome to Stewart Community High School. Here we give the adult ed program. We've already talked to you about TABE testing, and we've talked to you about the CASAS, which we'll review over, but we're going to talk to you today about the GED. So if you'll bear with us a second, we're going to interview myself again to talk about the GED test. Hello. So we're talking about the GED. The GED has 4 parts. You have reasoning through language arts, math, social studies, and science. The reasoning through language arts is probably the toughest test because it's the test that requires you to actually write an essay. All the other tests are mostly multiple choice, although you do need to know some background knowledge for both social studies and science, which we'll talk about in a minute. The math test is basically algebra and a little trigonometry and a little geometry. But the reasoning through language arts test requires you to compare and contrast, to be able to take 2 particular different documents and compare them and see who proves their point, and then provide your input on this. So you need to work on your writing skills on that particular test. It's not so much grammar and spelling, although that's in there. The essay is a huge part of the test. Now, unlike in the old days where the CASAS where the GED was, you didn't pass essay, you didn't pass. You can pass the test minimally without the essay. All that said, let's take a look at the other 3 tests. The test itself judges your knowledge on on American government and United States history, and a little bit of economics. but its biggest primary, 51% of it is American government. So you need to know how the government works, how to register to vote, all that stuff is part of it. It's trying to make sure you're a good citizen. The third test is science, and science is a 95-minute test, and you sign up for it and you take it. You're allowed a calculator in it as you are in social studies, and both those tests require some background knowledge. They don't give you all the answers, so if you don't, there's certain things you don't know that are real basic to science or real basic to history, you're not going to do well on those tests. Last but not least is reasoning through language arts. Reasoning through language arts is probably the toughest test there is because it requires you to write an essay. It comes in 3 parts. The second part or the third part is usually the essay. And the essay, unlike the old days where you got to write an essay about how you felt about gerbils, the essay is take this political document and take this event and compare the two about how they approach things. And think about how you would approach these things. Again, you can see on the screen behind me, this is the GED.com website. GED.com is how you register the test. It is not done at the testing centers. And testing centers are not exclusive to any one school. We have a testing center. Currently we can test 16 at a time because we're running Windows 7. Not sure what's going to happen when the district and Pearson VUE move to Windows 10 next year. But in the meantime, we can test up to 16 or 15 at a time with one as a reserve. And you come in, you register for the test on the computer, and you show up on the day and time you schedule for yourself. We do recommend you try not to take more than 2 tests on a single day. And to be honest with you, the way our system is set up, we open the GED Testing Center every other week for about 5.5 hours. Well, it's an 8.5 hour test if you try to take all 4 of them. So most people schedule themselves for 1 or maybe 2 tests. Generally, it's either math and science or social studies and reading, and then they vary. And you can do 1 at a time. There's no change in the price. By the way, unlike TABE and CASAS, the GED test requires you to pay. There's no options to that. So what you're going to do is you're going to have to pay for it. The great thing about it is that if you don't pass the first time, you can retake the test, and you're only going to pay $12. They waive the state fee, which is $20. The $12 basically pays to process it, is all it really does. None of the scoring is done at the center. It's all sent to Minnesota, where the Pearson VUE headquarters is. Once it's scored, you get a record back on your GED.com website. Many of our students tell us that they've gotten their results back within 15 minutes of reaching the parking lot. They'll receive an email saying that your scores have been posted. We've even had students stick around to make sure that their score is posted before. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this hasn't been too long-winded, but we wanted you to get a background on the GED test itself. Thank you, guys, and you have a great day.